We need to know whether it's better to invest in textbook or in flip chart for schools. We need to know whether microfinance really help the poor and how much it helps the poor. Spandana selected 120 communities, little slums, little basties within the city, which they were willing to leave aside for the study. So it's 120 small slums. And in those 120, we randomly picked 60. And in those 60, they were going to start their program right away. And in the remaining 60, they were not going to start their program for at least 1 year, but probably more. Before they entered anywhere, we did a baseline survey. And then they started lending, and currently people are borrowing. And we are now waiting until people have borrowed and the effect start to show or start to, you can reasonably expect the effect to show up. And then we'll do another survey in both types of community. And because the 60 communities where they entered were randomly selected, all we will have to do in order to know the impact of the program is to compare a variety of outcomes that we've collected in those surveys across the places where Spandana started the program and across the places where they've not started it yet. It will help Spandana because knowing which area are impacted by microfinance will help thinking about the product in a richer way. So for example, we might find that microfinance really doesn't change the average consumption, but it changes the variability of the consumption a lot. So we would see that microcredit plays a role that is closer to an insurance role. So having learned that, we are thinking about the product in a different way. After a huge development of the sector in the past few years, the sector is now under some kind of attack, in particular in Andhra Pradesh, one of the states where it is the most developed.
The district collector gave a press statement to everybody saying that they don't have to really repay any loan to any microfinance organization. But people because they did not really took that very seriously and they started repaying. And after that press statement also we got 100% on-time repayment almost for 4-5 days. And the district collector was so angry and then he seized all the branches of all microfinance organizations in the district, and they seized all registers, records, and they have simply thrown out all the staff from our branch offices, and we were not able to operate almost for 3-4 weeks. And then we appealed to the state government and the chief minister, and we told them this is what happened. But later on the branches were unseized and they were open, but still there is no normalcy.
There have been press articles and there have been all sorts of debates, and there have been very, very nasty and critical articles saying about microfinance that it really doesn't help the poor. In fact, it hurts them by putting them into a sort of a debt crisis and by putting them under stress when they feel obliged to repay, etc. And the interest rates are too high, etc., etc. So that's what the critics are saying. And on the other hand, the microfinance community is saying, no, that's not like that. On the contrary, despite the high interest rate, the poor are really benefiting because the activities that they are able to finance with these microfinance loans have returns that are even higher. So the poor are really benefiting. But we really need to have an answer to this question, and the only way to have an answer to this question is to do an impact evaluation. So at this point, if the microfinance sector had a good impact evaluation at its disposal, it could say, no, you are just lying. In fact, we have this data to show that microfinance really helped the poor in this and this and this way.
પાકલી વરસાદ હતો
વરસાદ ઉપર જ બીજું કઈ નહીં
વરસાદ ના કરે બાંધવી કરે તો મરી જાય શું કરવાનું પછી વરસાદ ના પડે તો કે કુવા દોડે ના આવે કોઈ પાણી ના હોય તો શું કરવાનું પછી કશું થયું અનાજ નતું પાકતું કશું
અરે કોઈ પાક વાવ્યો તો એ ટાઈમે આના
વાય પણ આવું કરી ગયું
Historically, farmers and landless laborers have been subject to extreme risk in the case of drought or flooding. Many countries have offered crop insurance to farmers. So the United States does this, India does this. And this is typically done not based on the yield that the individual farmer receives, but based on the yield in the area. So in India, for example, they'll have sample cutting farms where they'll harvest all the grain on the farm and they'll measure how much grain it was. There's several problems with this. First, it's very costly to do these measurements. And the yield on farm 2 kilometers away or 10 kilometers away may not be that highly correlated with the yield on the farmer's land. But notionally, it's a pretty good idea. Weather insurance is different because it's just based on the rainfall. Or in the next generation of products, it's going to be based on rainfall, wind, hail, anything that you can measure very precisely and at very low cost. So throughout India, the government and the National Commodities Exchange are setting up weather stations that measure meteorological features every day. And then it becomes very simple to write an insurance policy on this because typically you have historical data dating back 10, 20, 30 years about the rainfall in that region. Climatological models are reasonably well understood. So when you ask a private party to take on the rainfall risk, they can price it because they have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen next year with respect to rainfall. Rainfall insurance in India has started out with some 200 or 300 policies in the first year and has now expanded to reach 20 or 30,000 people. Yet we still don't understand how effective it is. It's critically important to understand how beneficial weather insurance is. Are people buying it simply because it's novel, or is it something that's going to make a profound impact on their lives? We're optimistic for the latter, but unless we conduct an evaluation, we cannot know how weather insurance affects individuals' consumption and risk-taking behavior.
We together, trying to do a research into, what is an appropriate kind of product, what is the affordability of our members, what are the kinds of, what are the periods when our members, are very hard hit and, therefore they are more vulnerable, which is that time frame during the monsoon season. So we, the research covers all these parameters and then also designing the appropriate product and also how do you market it.
This product has some unique features like it covers deficit rainfall as well as excess rainfall. The other two products that we have in India cover deficit rainfall only. Moreover, this product is